together. Oh, time can't erase.
My car journey maybe did not start as most of the people I know, like with Fast and Furious movies on Need for Speed Underground. For me, it started when I was maybe 1 or 2 years old. From that age, I was already into cars. One of the first vocabulary words that I knew was the car models that I would spot on the street, and I would name them. I would always watch my dad scrolling through the classified ads on the newspapers when we were looking to buy a car. So the cars were already a part of my life from that young age. And later on in life, my parents took me to a lot of drift events back in the day. The ones where there were very cool cars from Japan, like Yasho Factory S14 and S13, my bad. And just a lot of Nissans and Toyotas, A86s, not much BMWs back in the day. So that's what I saw first, and that's what I fell in love with. And for first car, I wanted something Japanese, of course. Ideally an S13. Back in the day when I was looking to get one, they were actually decently priced, maybe close to what this cost, maybe 1.5 times more. But I did not end up getting an S13 for my first car because that would have ended up badly, I think. Those cars usually just end up being a restoration project as soon as you buy them, while this is just a very reliable car. And it's a very good starter car because I could learn and move on with the car itself as I increased my skill and just general knowledge about the car and the chassis. But I still really like the 2000 styling for drift cars and such. So I tried to keep that in mind when building this car, and I really enjoy this car because it's not one of a kind, but it's pretty unique, especially here around in Lithuania, with the way it's styled and built with the ITBs and stuff. The car means a lot to me, especially because it might sound cliche or whatever, but I don't care. The car unlocks a lot of possibilities in your life. It's connected to a lot of personal memories and friends. It's just always in your life. When you get your first car, it's not usually what you want, and you look away at certain problems with the car just to get the car and do something. So this car is actually pretty rusty, and it was a base model with 1.6, so I had to build it up immensely. One of the last parts that I needed for drifting, as I soon found out after a few years of drifting, is that 1.6 is not really enough. It's enough to spin up the 14-inch wheels, but not 16s. And there weren't very many 1.8 VVT engines readily available in Lithuania. But what I found out was that when they are available, they cost pretty much the same as the whole car in UK. So what I did was, I took 4 days of work, bought a ticket to UK and visited my friend to get there. He and his friend drove me to buy the car. There were a lot of problems with the car. It didn't run right, it was very moldy, but it had all the right spec. It had the LSD and just a bunch of parts that it could sell on, which then, retrospectively thinking, made the engine swap not even free, but it made me money. So that's always a plus. But the whole journey is where the fun part started, because it was my first time driving for this long of a distance from UK to Lithuania. There were a lot of unforeseen circumstances when buying a car from UK, one of which being that I was not a resident in the UK, so I had to register the car on my friend's name and through his bank account, so it wasn't completely legal. And I drove through a bunch of toll roads, which I did not know about, and got a bunch of fines. But yeah, we took the Eurotunnel and just drove for hours on end till it was late enough to want to sleep it off. Found a random bus driver stop for truck drivers where they sleep. Went to the toilet, the public toilet there, and what I saw was very disturbing. there were rats all over the toilet, and they just ran through the exit as soon as I entered. Yeah, that night I slept inside the car, and it was very cold, and don't even know what to say. But yeah, that was the journey with my 1.8 swap car that I bought from UK. When I bought this car, I always wanted to go drifting with it, but it was my only car. But the mindset I have with this car is do whatever. If it sticks, it sticks. So when I go to drift events, I don't care if I crash it too much, because life is set up so that I don't necessarily need it, so I can push the car. But it sometimes got me into some sticky situations. One of them being in 2022, I went to Shotsu Drift in Poland, and I kind of crashed the car there. And as usual, I always drive my car there with no trailer, no support, no nothing. So what happened there was I got too eager and started tandeming with everyone without their consent, which is a big no-no in drifting, which I did not know at the time. And basically the car in front of me spun out and I crashed into them. My front end got completely obliterated. It twisted, like one side of the front end was up, the other was down. It was twisted to the side, just basically undrivable. The front end was dragging on the ground. The coolant was spilling everywhere. I did not know what to do after that, because I still had to drive the car 700 kilometers back home with this insane crash damage. And it was still like first day of the drifting, and there was one more day of drifting still left. So what we did was we removed half of the front end, cut the bumpers in half. Though the radiator was cracked, we managed to find some super glue and glue it back together. And that radiator actually held up fine for 3 more years after that, because I did not change it. But yeah, the glue on the radiator managed to fix the car, and I drove the car as hard as I could for the remainder of the day. And for the next day during the drift event, we just had a bunch of beers at night and laughed it off. But yeah, after that the car sat for a whole year while I was in Japan waiting for it to get repaired. All my friends usually tell me I have a weird way of budgeting for my car. I really like the rare parts and everything to make the car stand out, but sometimes I skimp out on maintenance items such as oil changes. Maybe not so much now, but before, when I had the old engine, because the Miata engines are pretty bulletproof, they did not cause me any problems. But the funny part is I do drift the car a lot on the street. I don't know if I can say that, but I usually chip out on tires. I do not change them, which ends up so that I usually drive on corded tires which have no thread, both front and rear. And that's not really a good thing, but one time I had to go to a concert in Poland, which was in Warsaw, if I remember correctly. And I did that with corded tires, which is not the best idea, especially with cars that have been crashed many times and the alignment isn't quite right. But anyways, I still did that, which wasn't the smartest idea. The tires held up fine for most of the journey, but after going one way to Warsaw, I saw that the tires were really corded and I was not gonna get home in one piece. Yet still I drove until randomly one of my tires deflated and dismounted on the freeway. It was really sketchy. But yeah, of course, I do not have a spare tire because this car doesn't have much power for drifting, so I usually strip it down as much as I can. But I did have a tire inflator from D.W.A. Those tire inflators usually pump up the tires to about 2.7 bar. And what happens if you pump them more is what I found out. And I found out that more and more with my friends, especially after they tried to pumping their tires more for low horsepower drifting to like 4 bar and so on. But what happened to the tire that dismounted? I plugged in my the VW, the device basically, and I tried pumping it to way higher than 2.7, which then fried my 12-volt supply. And that's not really a good thing, especially when you're in a country where you don't know where you're going and you're using your phone to navigate. So what ended up happening was all the phones that I had ran out of battery, and then I had to drive basically with no phone, and no one knew where I was. I couldn't write anyone. But yeah, that was one of the sketchy stories with the tires, but there is plenty more. One of the weirder stories involves the seat I have in my car currently, the Red Bride Artist 2. It's an old retro seat from 2000s that was used on many drift cars in Japan. And it was one of the seats I really wanted. But of course there's no such thing as an old school Red Bride seat in Lithuania. So when I had the opportunity to go study in Japan, I really wanted to get the seat. But of course, it's a big seat, so how do you transport it? How do you send the seat? What I found out was I linked up with a friend in Japan, who was a teacher there, and he told me he did the exactly same thing. He bought his Recaro and sent it via mail to United States. So I thought, oh, for sure, I can do the same thing. So what I did was, there was an up garage near my apartment when I was staying in Japan. And luckily enough, it had this seat. It wasn't too expensive. But of course, I was very stingy on money, so I did not have a taxi or a car to transport it. I just bought the seat, put it on my back, and carried it 10 kilometers back home on the train and everywhere. The Japanese people were looking at me, giving me weird looks, but I did not care. I was the happiest person ever. And I put that seat in my room, and the rest of the year I remember sitting on it, studying, doing homework, and just imagining going back home, fixing my car, and just putting this holy grail seat in my car. But after a few months, the time came when I had to send the seat out. That's where the problems really started. Because as it turns out, during the time when I was in Japan, it was the dark ages, the COVID times. And for some reason, the parcel size limits were reduced for Lithuania and other countries in Europe. So I could not send the seat the same as my friend who did send it to the United States, where the parcel sizes were bigger. I was completely lost. What could I do? I certainly would not chop the seat in half to send it. That would be very stupid. But one of my friends was helping an importer and hooked me up with some spare space in their container to send the seat out. So I did finally manage to send it out. I packed it up, then dragged it 5 more kilometers to the nearest mail office and sent the seat to the exporting company. And then I finally got the seat after maybe 4 months when I came back to Lithuania from Japan. But it was really worth it. It's all about the memories, for sure.